Steph, hi, and welcome to our Queen Chats. I'm so happy that you have come and joined us today to talk to us about your sober journey. And we're all very, very curious, and we can't wait to hear more about the special journey that you have been on.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, and hello to all of the queens.
You're most welcome. We welcome you. You are one of us. You are our queen. Okay, so Steph, I really want you to start off, I suppose, by telling us how long you've been sober for, and why you decided to embark on this journey.
Yeah, so I've been sober now for over 4 years, just over 4 years. It was June of 2018 that I kind of really started thinking about it. So I never was really a huge drinker in terms of drinking throughout the entire week or binge drinking when I did drink. Like I'd never get super paralytic, but it was quite regular. It was like every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. If I was going out with friends.
That one video of you lying on the floor.
Yeah, that was my 21st birthday. That was one time. But no, just I think towards like in my early 20s, like I was probably drinking probably like the standard amount for an early 20s person, especially living in London. Like there's always something on, and I was newly single and I was going out all the time, and then I'd met someone new and I was going out with all of his friends, and it was just the next morning I would wake up so anxious and had that like anxiety feeling. And you know when your chest is pounding through your heart, like your heart is pounding through your chest, sorry, and you just feel really anxious and uncomfortable. And it was never like, when I was out I would have the best time. Like you can vouch for that. We would have so many funny nights out and have the best time. And it was
all
never
the espresso martinis. Wired.
All the espresso martinis. And you introduced me to Tanqueray 10 with grapefruit. Incredible. Incredible. Wait, I just realized, can I say
I just do that. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. I just do that now with soda water on its own.
What, just soda water and grapefruit?
It's delicious.
Oh my gosh.
Glass with loads of ice.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll throw a little Carouse in there and see what happens.
But I think it was just around that time I was like, yeah. I love the nights out, but the days after I don't love. And it would sometimes last 2 or 3 days. So I'd go out drinking on a Friday and Saturday, and then I wouldn't feel back to myself until the Wednesday. And then I'd potentially go out drinking maybe on the Thursday and Friday. So there was only really one day a week when I was feeling good in myself. And I thought the one thing, I'd done so many things up until this point to better my mental health with diet, exercise, therapy, all of those things that we kind of all know and love. My sleep was always disturbed whenever I drank alcohol. My mental state was always disturbed. The food choices that I would then make would always be either a takeaway or something greasy and oily and something that I wouldn't usually choose to eat. And exercise would just go out the window, even like a little walk. So I was like, okay, if this is the catalyst, if alcohol is the one thing that is kind of having this knock-on effect of negative choices, why don't I try removing it for a little while? So I actually went away with my new boyfriend at the time. We went away for 3 weeks. And I said, in that time, I'm just going to give myself a challenge and not drink alcohol. And every time we're in an environment where we're watching the sunset or we're going out for dinner, I'm going to have like a fresh coconut or a mocktail or a juice or something like that. So I did that for 3 weeks. And honestly, I felt amazing. I felt so energized. My sleep had never been better. And there were so many benefits that I was noticing. And I thought, this could just be the holiday. Like you always feel energized after a holiday and relaxed, and you sleep better and you switch off. So I was like, this could just be the effect of a lovely long holiday. So I came home and I was like,
you're like newly in love as well. It's all very exciting.
All of those things. No, it's so true. So I was like, do you know what? I'm going to come home and try and continue with this journey and see how I feel. So I think I tried it again for like 2 or 3 weeks. Honestly, I felt amazing. And like, I would bloat quite a lot. Like I had really bad issues with bloat. Obviously, I read your book.
Yeah.
Being bloat. Loved it. And I was going through all of the kind of transitions, trying to navigate what it was. And like the first takeaway, when I removed alcohol from my diet, my digestion, I was just so in tune with what was then affecting my tummy. And it was never a question. Like I felt like I was just constantly.
I suppose you were also just making like much better choices.
Yeah. And consistently. I think that's one thing, like reducing alcohol really made me consistent. And I will be honest, I think I'm an all or nothing person. So then to hear that like to feel that all of those choices had benefited me, I was like, I'm just going to remove this substance from my life for good. And
did you ever think that you would just be like sober curious and then have the odd celebratory beverage? Or were you just like, boom, no, that's it, I am done? Because I think that a lot of us will kind of be like, we'll find that kind of like cold turkey, this is it, you know, like, oh, maybe I'll have one. Like, did you think that at the start? Like, you know what, if I fancy one, I'll have one? Or were you just like, no?
I think at the time, because I did have a very strong social circle that kind of surrounded alcohol and drinking and going out, I kind of was like, I'm going to tell everyone I'm sober because I thought it would be easier. And the difference I noticed from I'm not drinking tonight versus I don't drink was huge. If I say I'm not drinking tonight, I notice a lot more peer pressure. I notice a lot more comments from people. The moment I said I don't drink, suddenly it became questions and people were inquisitive and more inviting to that. And I think
there is kind of like a negative connotation with saying I'm sober, and especially in Ireland, and you know, a lot of people who are going to watch this are going to be from Ireland, where it's kind of like, oh, shit.
Yeah,
no, you know, there's that like, oh my God, what, maybe she's pregnant. Like, there is a kind of, it can't just be like, I'm just not drinking, I'm choosing not to poison myself.
Yeah.
Like, which is like the obvious answer. It's kind of like no, you know what, I just don't want to. It has to, it's like, why would you do that? And do you think that like kind of like how did you deal with people who had that kind of say in what you were doing, who were a little bit negative? Because I feel like a lot of people will come up amongst that, and like you said, where people will be like, oh, go on, just have one, or they'll be like, oh, you're being ridiculous, or you know, things like that. What did you do in that situation? I was never that person, by the way.
No, you were never that person. I loved it. I think
like, we're gonna whip it up on soda water.
I think I had this conversation actually, you know, at Wellfest at your Queens Don't Quit stand.
Yes.
I was speaking to so many of your Irish queens about this, and there's such a huge stigma because you're such a social bunch of people. Do you know what I mean? You're out all the time, you're drinking, you're so fun loving. And I think that does surround a lot of areas with alcohol, and it can be really hard. And I think the word sober has so many negative connotations to it, because a lot of people will be like, oh my God, she's been through the 12 steps. She's been an addict. She's had an issue with alcohol. And
my mom says, like, whenever I would talk about it online, or if I would say, oh, you know what, I'm gonna, like I did like the sober 60 days at the start of the year, and then I was like, oh, I'm gonna go sober from like now until Christmas, and my mom's like, don't say that. Don't say it. And I'm like, it's not like a bad thing. She's like, no, people will be thinking.
No, it's so true. And I think that's why I've kind of shifted as much as I can to saying like alcohol-free living.
Oh, nice.
But also sober curious is such a lovely way to put it. Like, oh, I'm just dabbling with a few nights sober, and just being really strong in your choices. And I think this comes from kind of everything you're doing with your queens anyway, to build confidence and build self-belief. And I think when you have that, you kind of speak out a little bit more and you say things with your chest. And rather than like, oh, I'm not drinking tonight, you'll be like, I'm actually not drinking tonight. And you'll be really firm. And no matter what people throw at you, you can be like, I'm not drinking tonight. And maybe that's, you've decided you don't want to drink during the week and you're just going to drink the weekends. Or maybe you've decided that you're not going to drink at all unless it's a wedding or a celebration. And I think you're allowed to make those choices, and you just have to articulate that to your friends and family. And sometimes I found that happened easier if I were to message them in advance, rather than being in the drinking environment and them trying to peer pressure you, just saying, look, I'm not drinking at the moment, I'm not pregnant, I don't have an alcohol problem, I'm just doing it for myself, my mental health, my well-being journey. And I'm hoping that as the world is opening up to more discussions about it, it's going to be easier for us to make those choices and live more of like a sober, curious, I'd call it like a damp lifestyle rather than dry lifestyle, where you can like dabble in and out of it.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I'm on a damper lifestyle.
Yeah.
For me, it's like in the summer, but for me, actually, which I'd like to talk about is kind of like we obviously both have openly spoken about suffering with anxiety. And I feel like everybody gets there's I like if you don't get anxious, I mean high five you. But like we definitely have openly spoken about being anxious. And they always say that, you know, what's that saying? Alcohol is like, it's like putting putting more gas on your anxiety. It's like pouring petrol over the flame, like when you drink. But often what happens is that, say you have like a bad week at work, or, you know, something that sad happens in your life, or you're a little bit stressed. And often what people do is they'll come home, or it'll be a Friday, and they'll be like, fuck it, I'm just going to pour myself a drink. And I know this, like when dad died, I like started drinking a lot. Where like every night I would literally I was like, oh, it's time for drinks. And every night I would sit and I would make me and mom drinks at night. The gin. Grapefruit. Let me tell you, I haven't had one since. After last summer ended, as in summer, what is that, 2022. I haven't had one since. I made myself sick with it. But it's like all you're doing is numbing the pain, and it's so hard to, you think that you're just numbing the pain with alcohol, and it's the wrong, obviously it's the wrong thing to do. What advice, what would you recommend doing instead, or how do you stop yourself from using alcohol to numb pain? Because obviously we use it a lot to like celebrate and stuff, but I mean there's only so many celebrations.
Yeah, no,
you're like, kids' birthday, it's the anniversary, it's Christmas, now I'm on holiday. I mean, these people celebrating every weekend. I'm like, boop, you have a lot of friends. Maybe I just don't have very many friends, but I have real friends, and that's what counts. But the numbing of pain, I think that people will probably resonate with that a lot more. Yeah. What would you recommend? And I probably should have reached out to you at the time, but I probably didn't want to, because I was just in my own suffering. What would you say, or what would you, so say I called you, I'm like, Steph, I'm having a shitty time, and I'm keep on drinking, I'm kind of like numbing my pain, like as if you're my therapist. Yeah. What should I do? But I feel like you've been in that situation before and you've gotten through it. So I want to know how you did that.
I think it's, as much as it's numbing the pain, you're also looking for that like dopamine hit, right? Like you want, the moment you either hear the cork of a bottle pop, or the pouring of that like glug, 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 glug of like a wine pour, that will start to release a dopamine effect, because you drink alcohol in a celebratory moment, and that's obviously created like a neural pathway in your brain that it's actually going to be a happy moment. And the way that alcohol affects your brain, I believe it affects like the front part of your brain, which is like decision making. That's why after one drink it's very easy to get swayed into another drink and another drink and another drink, because those kind of like processes in your brain that make decisions are blurred, and you can't tell what's a good or a bad decision. That's why when you're drunk and intoxicated, you do things that maybe you wouldn't do when you're in a sober environment. So I think for me, it would be looking and exploring within yourself what other areas and what other things you could be doing to chase that dopamine release. So for me, I love watching trash television because it helps my brain switch off. It helps me relax. I'm usually sitting down. I'm usually
What's
not
your trash TV choice?
Absolutely the Kardashians. I'm obsessed. I love the Kardashians. And
we always say you are our little Kylie Jenner because you have Carouse non-alcoholic deliciousness. You have Stay Sassy, you've got Sustainable, and now you have Dry Disco.
Yes.
Maybe in Kardashian, you may think it's trash, but they could be inspiring you. Sometimes I do watch that though, and I'm like, right, I'm so motivated. I'm going to take the world.
Also, it transforms you from where you are, right? Like I can't think about anything else when I'm watching that show, or when I'm really connected with the characters. And I think also there's been proven studies that if you rewatch programs that are comforting to you, like for me, I love Schitt's Creek. I know you're a fan as well, but like rewatching the same series, you know the characters, you know what's going to happen. It becomes a comfort. And I'm not saying just watch loads of TV instead of pouring yourself a glass of wine, but like finding things that give you a dopamine release, even if it's a non-alcoholic glass of wine or a glass of Carouse or something that's going to relax you, and you still go through the same processes of getting out a nice glass, opening the lid, hearing the glugging sound, drinking, and like really being present in those sips, like just finding something that works for you. And I think
because I do think that works better than just switching it for like a sparkling water or like a can of pop, like Diet Coke or something, you know? Like I feel like it's like the sophistication. I know that when I'm like, okay, I'm doing dry weekend. Like last weekend, I was like, we're not drinking. That's it. We're not drinking. So I was like, oh, what can we do? Because I still want to sit and have something. I think it's the having something in your hand, and that's where Carouse comes in. It's like amazing because you're like, I'm doing the same actions.
Yeah.
Sipping a drink, because you wouldn't, like, you would down a sparkling water or like a can of Coke, but you wouldn't down an alcoholic beverage, like a big glass of something. So it's kind of like that. It's still sophisticated. It's still more than something simple where you're kind of like, and I feel like that is really helpful, like making those I still have yet to find the cherries, but when I do, that cherry cocktail that you made, that's a bit of me. And I was like, oh, I have to make that because that will feel fancy and it'll feel like lovely, and I'll make it and I'll be like, oh, this tastes delicious, and you sip it and you enjoy it, and you, like you said, you kind of like watch your show, and I feel it's kind of like that little something that it makes you forget, and then you wake up the next day and you're like,
and you feel fresh and ready to go. So true.
Yeah. I wake up, I'm like, la, 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 opening the curtains. The birds are singing. Seize the day. And it is, and then it's like, because you like, it's been so long since you've had that like moment, but like that weekend, then you wake up and you don't feel hungover. You're like, I can rule the world. But then I'm like, why did I go and do it again? You know, then it'll be like a couple of weekends later, I'll be like, oh, and every time you wake up, the one thing, like no one wakes up with a hangover and says, let's do that again. Everyone always says, never again, never again. However, what I was thinking was a lot of people are like, use alcohol because they're afraid. So like, they'll be like, and we know when we go to, like, I know when we go to a lot of events, and like sometimes I'll walk in and be like, oh, fuck, I don't know anybody. Like, oh, I'm gonna have to talk to people, and it would be like that one drink of confidence, you know, or that, which is an excuse, like, you know, or there'll be like, there's even people who will be like, oh my God, I couldn't like, you know, couldn't walk into a room, couldn't do a speech, couldn't have sex. Like they'll be like, oh my God, I couldn't have sober sex. Like I wouldn't be able to like kiss a boy or whoever. And they feel that they need alcohol for that reason. Did you ever, like when you were on the start of your sober journey, how did you deal with, maybe you didn't have any of those things in the past, maybe you're just like, stop, I'm so confident, I never needed that. But were there moments when you did need that, and how did you get over them?
100%. I think there was definitely a transitional period because, like you said, we go to a lot of events, and I'd turn up to an event and I'd sometimes just need a prop. Like I'd take one of the free drinks on offer and I'd hold it and I'd sip it and I'd slowly ease into the event. I mean, there's been many a time you and I on the espresso martinis. Do you remember that trip where did we go?
Tenerife. That was the Lanzarote.
I can't remember, but we went somewhere and you and I
the yoga.
Like the only ones
of us doing yoga in the morning with the sunglasses on. It's like, my mouth is as dry as the sand I am sitting on.
So it's you walking in the robe going to the spa. But no, I definitely struggled with that. And
I feel if we did that, if we went on that trip, we wouldn't drink, because you wouldn't drink, and then we'd be like, well, I'm not going to have anything then.
But I do think that confidence is a muscle. So like there was a transitional period when I would go and I'd be like, I feel so out of my depth and I can't even hide behind alcohol, and I feel really uncomfortable meeting these new people, and it threw me out of my comfort zone. Like I'd say, unless I'm really, really, really close with someone, I can be quite shy and reserved to begin with. And I think it happened in two ways. So in environments where I was with new people, I really internalized myself until I learned to kind of refine my voice in a sober environment, and my like alcohol-free voice almost, and knowing that I was enough exactly as I was without the liquid courage. And I think that took time, and the more I put myself out there, the easier it became and the less daunting it became. But then in my friendship groups, I felt like I had something to prove, because I'd always been like a wild, fun-loving, fun person on a night out.
Still are.
But I felt like I had to go above and beyond to prove that to everyone. Like, I'm still fun now, I'm sober, and I feel like for maybe the first year or 2 years, I really, every time I went out with friends, I would be the last one standing, and I would be exhausted at like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., being like, why am I still here? Like, I could have left an hour ago and no one would have noticed.
Yeah.
And I feel like over my journey, I've now recognized that actually I can go out with my friends, but if I want to leave at 10 or 11, I can. Like, I'm in control.
Like at that age, I'm like, take me with you.
I think it just comes from like having the confidence to know who you are, what you want, and making your own choices. So as much as it feels really daunting in the beginning, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Controversial question.
Oh, go on.
Have you ever been like, I'm just gonna have a drink? Like, since you've been sober, has there ever been a moment where you're like, yeah, I'm just gonna have a drink? And did you? And if so, how did you feel? Or if you didn't, how did you stop yourself?
There was actually an occasion. It was November, I want to say 2021. And I was at a friend's house party and everyone was dressed up. It was like a ski theme. It was amazing.
Ooh, I remember this.
It was so much fun. And everyone was getting really loose and like dancing and having an amazing time. And I felt so safe in the environment. I knew the house, I knew whose party it was, I knew pretty much every guest there. And I felt really safe there. And I was like, if I was going to drink and try it again, probably tonight would be the time. And they had like an open bar and they were making really nice cocktails. And I was like, do you know what? One of those cocktails sounds really, really nice. I'm just going to have one. It was really, really strong. And my first sip, I was like, Lord, that is a lot. After the drink, I felt so out of control. You know, that kind of like bubbly, tipsy feeling that everyone really enjoys. And it's like, oh my God, the night's starting. I started to feel that. And all I felt was panic. I was like, I do not like this. There's like an alien substance in my body. I'm really not enjoying this. So I had the one drink and then I went back to drinking water and was like, I'm going to have an amazing night just on water.
Yeah.
And I think it was just because I'd not drunk in so long. I just didn't need it.
Yeah. That there is that like initial like, or it's kind of like when you've gone too far and you're like, oh God.
Just like swaying in the toilet.
Like, will I be sick? And then I'm like, and then sometimes I love how people are like, it's okay if you get it out of your system, it's fine. Have some more drinks because it's all gone now. This is my like drunken voice. And I'm like, sometimes I think back to those moments and I'm like, what?
It's so true.
Why did I do that? That is wild. I've been sick. I'm fine. There's someone like fixing your hair, pushing it back. You look beautiful. Girl in the toilet that you've never seen again in your whole life, who's all of a sudden your very best friend forever. She's going to be your bridesmaid. You're like, oh God. Just have some water. Oh God. And then you're like, oh, I feel great. Someone's like, shot? Ooh, shot.
It's so true, and it's genuinely because you can't make decisions when you're drunk. And like, I've heard so many people say like, never trust someone that doesn't drink, but I wouldn't trust drunk Steph. Like I used to lose so many things. I would make such poor choices. Like, I don't trust me drunk, I trust me sober.
I feel like alcohol companies came up with that slogan.
Yeah, it's so true.
I hear now that they're like they're thinking of putting, you know, like on smoking, they're thinking of putting those labels on. I feel like Ireland is like going to be the
it's
first.
The first. Yeah, 100% is.
Well, if there was a country to do it in. Yeah. Steph, you are so unbelievably successful and you have achieved so much. I am honestly so proud of you. Has there ever been a moment or moments, maybe there's been moments where you've just been like, fuck it. I mean, I just mean like in general life, you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just want to give up what I'm working on. I'm talking more about career now. Like, I just like, even maybe when you were like building Carouse and stuff like that, were you ever just, was there ever your moment of just like, no, I get these moments a lot, by the way. Like, help me out. But has there ever been that, like, is there a distinctive moment in your mind where you were like, for example, I remember when my dad died, I was just like, I like deleted all my social media for like 3 months. I was like, I'm never going back on. I do not want to do this. Like, it was a major life change. And I was like, I just don't want to do this anymore. I want to do, I don't want to do that. I want to do something completely different. Have you had that moment so far in your life? And what made you overcome it? If you
Yeah,
did.
I think it's happened a few times. So definitely when I was training as a professional dancer, that voice crept up and was basically like, this isn't for you. And I listened to it and it was the right thing to do. But there's been moments since where it's just been like overwhelmed with workload or like lack of self-belief. And there was definitely a moment in lockdown where I think everyone was just overwhelmed and I was working as hard as I could because we couldn't control anything else. I was like, I can control my work, but I can't control the world. So I was just like, I'm going to just work as hard as I could to the point of burnout. And I had a period of extreme burnout where like getting out of bed was a struggle, getting out for a walk was a struggle, even eating was a struggle. Like everything was just really, really difficult. And it just got to the point where everything felt like, what is the point in anything? I think with our jobs, obviously we set out to do good and we get to connect with amazing people, but like in lockdown, trolling skyrocketed and people's comments skyrocketed, and
Oh God, it was wild.
it was such a
Very
wild
things
time.
about myself I didn't even know. I was like, did I do that? Maybe I was drunk. What a
And I
joke. I was like, oh my God, is that
you
me?
you were hugely supportive in that time as well, because I think you've got such a good way of being like, this is other people's opinions, whereas I was really taking things on and like I would read everything as if it was feedback. Even if someone was horrible and nasty, I would be like, okay, yeah, well, if they think that that's true, so I need to like take that on board and see what I can do to improve that. And it just got to the point where I wasn't even pleasing myself, let alone anyone.
Yeah.
And
What was your Queens Don't Quit moment?
oh, was my Queens Don't Quit moment.
At that time, you must have had a moment where you're like, I'm queen, I'm not gonna quit, I'm just gonna do it.
I think, do you know what it was? I actually had a message from a friend that was like, I know you go through moments of having like low times and wobbles, but this one's been quite a long one. And I think it had been like 21 days or something. And I was like, oh yeah, this has been quite a long one.
Yeah.
And then another friend came over. This was when we were allowed to have people over in lockdown, and just took me on a walk, and I just cried. And you know, when you cry to the point where your skull hurts, and I felt like that was a release. And I was like, this is my lowest moment. I don't want to feel back here again. I'm going to shower. I'm going to wash my hair. I'm going to make a nice meal. And I'm going to this is a reset, and I'm going to start again. I'm going to set little incremental goals that I want to achieve. And one could be like just making sure that I get up and make my bed and I shower every day for a week. Because I think sometimes when you're in your lowest moments, yeah, I think that was the beginning of like climbing out of the hole again. Because when you're in your lowest moments, like everything goes out the window. Like even the very basics of hygiene or self-care is just impossible. And I think the Queens Don't Quit moment was like the recognition that like I didn't want to live there in this like horrible dark space in my mind. And again, it was similar to you. Like I didn't come on socials for that whole time, and I wasn't present in any conversation. And that's when I was like, no, like this is like make or break. And that was around the time where I came up with the idea for Carouse, and I started working on it. And that was almost like I had a focus and a drive, and everything from then on is just I've really tried to hone in. Yeah, I think so. I think passion is definitely like having a reason why is definitely what drives me. And I think obviously you always have those little dips and those moments, and it can definitely come around grief. Like when someone passes away, you think, what is life even for if we're
Had that also with your granny.
yeah, and I think that can be really tough, but then it's like actually life is so short. Yeah, for sure. I recently heard a quote, I can't remember where I was, but someone
I was
said,
going to ask you, I was like, ooh,
oh,
but
this is just about, similar to what you said, it's not about the years in your life, it's about the life in your years. And I feel like that is something that I'm really trying to channel. Like, we have such a short amount of time on this earth. What can we do to fill it with good, fill it with friendships like ours, and experiences like the ones we've had together? And I think that's now my driving force more than anything else.
that's so true. I really resonate with that. Especially after kind of like everything happened. It was kind of like you kind of look back at the person. You're like, oh, I wish they did this and I wish they did that. And like, I would have loved to have done like certain things, or, you know, even said things or gone places. And now I'm like, we're doing it all.
Yeah.
I'm doing everything, you know? It's just kind of like, just do what you want to do. Would that be your quote that you would love? And I also love that in your Queens Don't Quit moment, it was your queens who supported you.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. I was like, yeah, love that. No, would that be, if you had to give a quote kind of about like, not a quote, but like if you had to give, I will turn it into a quote by Steph. But if you had to give like one piece of advice or something that our gorgeous listeners could take away with them today, what would that be? On the spot. I hate when people ask me this. We'll do a little interlude of music. La, la, la. Guess the song. Hit me, baby, one more time.
I think it would just be to really like live life to the fullest and live for yourself rather than for anyone else. I think we're an accumulation of labels and baggage given to us by teachers and family members and friends. And I think when you strip that back and you actually make decisions for yourself, I think that's when you actually start living for yourself rather than the other people around you. And you make the decisions based on what you want to do rather than what other people are telling you to do. And I think that goes hand in hand with sobriety or fitness or wellness or relationships and friendships. So I don't know if that's a quote, but that's definitely the advice I'd give, is start living for yourself and not other people.
So young and so wise. I mean,
I thought you were going to say so young, so naive.
That too. Definitely not as naive as you used to be. I used to be like,
God, I used to be. Oh my God. Can I just say that like Maeve has literally been my mentor through everything. Like on WhatsApp, she's literally like, listen, and she would give me these pep talks that are just, honestly, I remember so many things of what you've told me. I think you've been like a huge part of me living for myself rather than for other people.
That's because I'm like 10 years older than you. You're like my little sister, the little sister I never had. I'm like, you do you, queen. You do you. I too have a quote, but I wrote mine down on paper. But I actually was like, kind of like researching and like, obviously since, I mean, I think it's been like 10 days since I've had a drink. And I'm kind of more, especially this year, I feel like more curious than before, especially from like January through to kind of like April. And then it was like summer and I was like, well, I went on my honeymoon and there was like a lot of moments and I really enjoyed myself. And then kind of post summer, I was like, oh, like I just really don't want it. So we're kind of curious at the moment. And I've kind of set myself a little goal that I would like to not drink until I come home at Christmas. And then, yeah, I don't think I will ever be sober, or maybe I will. Who knows? Who knows? But I definitely enjoy the moments and how it makes me feel. Like I do. I feel great. But I read today, you can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That's really,
you know that Lewis guy? Is it C.S. Lewis?
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that.
Yeah. You just need to have like kids.
All the literacy queens will be like, absolutely not. The man quotes C.S. Lewis on her chat. Took it as her own.
Just change one word and then it's yours.
Oh, really? You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change. No, we'll keep it like that and change the ending. I feel like that really resonated with me when I was, I love Pinterest. I mean, I feel it's a thing of my era.
Yeah.
During your late 30s, you'd be like, I pin everything.
I love Pinterest.
My whole wedding.
Oh my God, even like choosing a nail color, I'm like Pinterest.
Because you can choose your skin tone.
Oh my God, I love that feature. I literally did it yesterday.
Me too. I was like, oh, I suit that type of nude. Anyway, Steph, thank you so much. Just quickly, because I just mentioned dry disco, and I just saw it on my notes. Just quickly tell us about dry disco, because it sounds like a vibe and I would love to go. And do you have another one coming up?
Yes, so we have our dry disco Christmas party on the 2nd of December in London, which is very exciting. We have hired the Ministry of Sound in London, which is an accumulation of different rooms, and we're going to have different sober activities in each room.
Just really quickly, I'm so sorry for interrupting, but do you know that's where I did my very first OG Queens Don't Quit hit party?
Oh my God, you did in the main room.
Yeah, that is going to bring you such luck.
Well, we did one in
at Ministry of Sound.
It is so much fun. And actually, the very first night of Ministry of Sound, they didn't have an alcohol license. So their opening night was actually completely alcohol free. So we're kind of taking it back to how the club initially started. And it's basically a festival for sober curious women to come try different non-alcoholic spirits on the market, try different non-alcoholic options.
And is it all women?
It's all women, and there's different activities in every room, whether it's a dance class, we're having a house party games room, we're having a cocktail lounge, we're having a champagne lounge, and it's basically a chance, because being on your alcohol-free journey can be quite lonely, so we want to just bring all these women together, introduce them into each other, and just have an amazing day in a club environment where usually it would be very alcohol focused, and just show you that
there's
actually
no pressure
whatsoever.
Safe space. Love that.
And hopefully the goal is, I mean, this will be our second event, and the goal is hopefully we can come to Ireland in the future and all of those kind of things.
We would love to have you.
Yeah, well, we need to make it happen, but so the tickets are on sale at the moment for December, and I'm very excited for it. We're hoping to welcome about 500 women to come through the doors, and just have basically a really fun afternoon. There will be dance classes that I'm teaching. We're going to learn like the chorus to a Christmas song. We'll then do
don't know, Steph is a professional.
I trained
as a professional. What was the music awards you done, Steph? The Brit Awards?
The Brit Awards, yeah, with Julie.
Professional.
But yeah, no, really excited. And there'll be like a massive, the last hour is just a massive dance party to Christmas songs to really get us in the Christmas spirit.
I love that for you. It's going to be amazing. So 2nd of December, if you're in London, place to be. To be. That's so amazing. Well, Steph, thank you so much for joining us. We have I was like, this will be 15 minutes. 15 minutes.
With us chatting, you joking.
I miss you so much. I can't wait to see you soon. I will be back in December, not at the beginning. If I was there but I will be at your dry disco in spirit. as you know. But I will speak to you soon. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, and I'll see you soon.
Bye.